Hello, everyone. Welcome to our latest installment of the Dasana podcast series, which just so happens to be on International Podcast Day. Would you look at that? So it was almost as if we planned it. I'm actually today in a podcast studio in one of the latest spaces to be added to the Dasana platform, Brewdog in Waterloo, which is awesome. They've even equipped the rooms with a lovely cold beer. I'm joined today by Flore Pradere, who is the Director of Research at JLL. Flore, thanks for joining us. And the first question I have is, how was my pronunciation?
That was perfect. Thanks a lot, Greg.
Oh, perfect. Well, that was, I think, of all of the questions, that was the one I was most nervous about today, Flore. So I'm glad. We're really excited to be picking your brain today on what is a really exciting piece of research that JLL has recently undertaken or launched, should I say, as part of the Future Vision program. And today we're going to be speaking about the future of real estate. And for some people, it's like future of real estate. Not again. There's lots of future of real estate. But before you, either if you're live, click stop listening, or if you're watching this later and then stop listening, do not, because this is very different. I'm super excited to be talking about it. So stay tuned. Well, this really is so different from what's done before because, firstly, it's looking way out, like 2040, right? Which is cool. And secondly, it's less about predicting a kind of a linear path to the future, what it will look like as it pertains to future real estate. You've created specific scenarios and guidance and planning around what would you need to do if those scenarios were to take place. I think it's super interesting. Am I right in saying is it 12 months?
Yeah, it took 12 months actually. And it is actually just the beginning. It's a program. It's a research program that we have embarked on.
And I've been told you shouldn't ask two-part questions, but I always do them anyway. The first part of the question is, could you tell us a bit more about what the Future Vision program is? And then the second part is, and why JLL has taken the time to invest so many resources and time and energy on it.
Yeah, so actually the approach was really based on design thinking. The idea was to just stop looking at current trends and really adopting a longer term approach. So looking at possible futures, we had a major desk research. We conducted a lot of interviews, more than 45 interviews with experts of all kinds, from anthropology to urban planning, geopolitics, demography, robotics. I mean, it was a wonderful exploration.
Robotics.
And we really, and we really wanted to stretch further the traditional boundaries of real estate. So it's really going much further than that. We even had a space architect. So what's happening when you need to imagine a design and an environment in the space, where resources are so limited. So it was really to challenge our thinking. And we partnered as well with an innovation studio, which is called School Lab. They are based in California, but they also have offices in Europe and in Asia. So that was really a global approach because we also knew that we would have differences by geography and, a lot of richness behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Flo, I can see just in your face, smiling and being exciting to be talking about it. It feels like it's been, such an enjoyable project already at the early stages to be part of.
Yeah, that was really fascinating. And what we did, we tried to identify change drivers. So what could really impact our societies as a whole, not just real estate, not just our industry. And then we combined those change drivers to create scenarios. And we created more than 80 scenarios. That was crazy. We couldn't stop,
80.
Just creating new ones and new ones again and again. And at some point, we stopped and we say, okay, now we need to just focus on a few of them. And that's how we selected 8 of them, But that was very difficult, I must say.
I didn't realize there was 8. It feels like, maybe when you're writing a series, people who are writing a kind of a television series go through all these different scenarios, refine down. So I didn't realize there's 80. So wow,
Yeah.
80. I would love to. I mean, well, we've got eight in the report. So there are 8 scenarios in the
Yeah.
report. We're dialing that back slightly, and we're going to talk about 3 of them specifically today. And if we've got time at the end, I've got a bonus question. In fact, now that I know there was 80. Anyway, more to come on that. But today we're going to specifically talk about 3 that we selected, which were navigating resource scarcity and growth,
Yeah.
decentralized organizations, and the people imperative.
Yeah.
And these are great because, I mean, they're great because they're great, but they're great because I feel like we're already starting to see a semblance of these 3 at the moment. So that they're
Yeah.
very real for us right now. And
Mm.
really interested to see where the scenarios have taken them into the future. So if we kick off with navigating resource scarcity and growth,
Yeah.
so yeah, as I said, we see this today. 6 out of the 9 planetary boundaries we have already crossed, which is
Yeah.
absolutely wild. I must admit, I didn't realize to that extent, and I did some research myself onto the planetary boundaries, and see 6 of them crossed already is just like, whoa, okay, maybe it's
Yeah.
not. We're not really looking at the future. We're looking at the now. But so yeah, pretty scary. But you use the term scenario ingredients, which I
Yeah.
really liked throughout the report, and I really like it. So it'd be great to understand, for starters, the scenario ingredients that led us to this first future state that you explored.
Yeah. Actually, the idea was really to start looking at what was happening already. So it's a long-term exploration, but it's based on weak signals. What's happening already, what we see already. And what we see is that there is a scarcity of Earth's resources. So we are running short of water, of oil, energy. We have a lot of polluted resources. And it's more and more difficult also to access to credit, to finance. We all know that difficult economic background. We also have a difficulty to access the right talents, the right skills. There is a lot of discussion going on around AI and what will be the future of the workforce, people aging also in some parts of the world. So this is creating new productivity challenge. There was a lot of debate around hybrid work and so on, is it good or bad for productivity? So we are in that overall environment, which is really telling us we should do more with less, or maybe just do less. This is really what the scenario is about. It's a key question. Do we need to produce always more, more, and more? Or can we imagine another type of world?
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's like your 80 scenarios down to 8. It's like you've got more,
Yeah.
more, more, more. Let's bring
Yeah.
it up.
But at some point, you need to be more, rational.
Yeah, and it'd be and so and many of those points we talk about within decentralized organizations and the people imperative, and they're all very, very connected actually. With the more that you
Yeah.
kind of explore those, they're super connected. So all those scenarios really kind of interlink in quite a nice way. How do you think this specifically impacts the real estate industry? I think that's a key question I have on this front.
Yeah. Actually, this means real estate will have to adapt. It will have to be more agile, more resilient, more efficient. I quite like a term which is called frugal innovation. So it's the idea that you need to innovate with less, you need to be super innovative, with maybe almost nothing, but still be able to imagine new ways to run the world, to run real estate. It's also about circularity, renewable materials. So instead of always purchasing new things, just reusing. So, and for real estate, it's also about being hybrid, being versatile. So being able to accommodate different types of needs. It's also the concept of chronotopia. I don't know if you heard about it, but chronotopia, it's the concept that one single asset or a given room in a building can accommodate different needs throughout the day, throughout the week. So it's not used just a few hours a week, but really used all the time and potentially by different people.
Yeah, super interesting. And I hadn't heard that specific phrase. I like it. copy and steal it. But yeah, that seems to be to your point really happening at the moment, which is people not necessarily thinking about real estate, acquiring more and more and more, and thinking about how does
Yeah,
the current space uh, serve the new purpose of what an office is,
yeah,
I guess, right? So, because acquiring more space is costly,
yeah.
and also, to your point, spending a lot of money doing mass reconfigurations is also
Mm,
very, very costly.
yeah,
So to simply redesign and rebuild on an existing floor plate have also costs a lot of money. So I think people are having to think about how they, to your point, kind of doing more with less. Think about
yeah,
repurposing space in a
yeah,
kind of a low touch way to be able to make more out of the existing asset.
yeah,
And just on that, I think we speak about tech a lot. So tech, tech,
yeah.
tech, tech, tech. But
Everywhere.
everywhere, indeed, indeed. And but on the theme of doing more of less, have you could you give a view on any low tech innovations, specifically that
Mm,
this can adopt to make the workspaces more sustainable? Maybe it's something unexpected, but unconventional, but it'd be good to
yeah.
get your take on that.
Yeah, actually, it's a big question. It's super important. I mean, we talk a lot about tech, about AI, but this is requiring a lot of energy. So how can we do with that, you know? How, and maybe we could imagine a totally opposite future where we would have no tech at all. So, or maybe just low tech. So for me, it could be like having blinds, having plants, using clay, into the architecture. So you return to old techniques. You try to identify materials that are simple, easy to access locally, not expensive. Maybe it could be as simple as just a vegetable garden on every roof. And this is already creating a lot of resilience for the building.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that. When you say vegetable gardens on the roof, it's fairly tricky because we just me and my wife tried to grow some vegetables, and it was our first go, and we gave it a go, and we've got the harvest was okay. It was okay, but it's fairly tricky to. Better luck next year, I think. Um, and uh, Flor, like, you touch on the kind of the principle of a circular economy. Um, how do you think that's going to specifically shift how we think about offices?
Yeah, actually, we also just ran a future of work survey that was released last week. And in that survey, we asked companies to think about what they will do by 2030. And 4 in 10 companies told us they would only use recyclable furniture and workspace without using materials from the circular economy. So this is the future. Four
Wow.
in
Okay.
10. Okay. So I think we need to be ready for that. And it's for the offices, but it's also for any type of real estate asset. And I have an example that I quite like in Taiwan. They took previous underground train stations that were not used anymore, and they installed organic farms into those assets, just to make sure it was used and not left abandoned.
That is amazing. I'm gonna have to do my research and Google that later, 'cause that sounds awesome. That's such a cool example. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna give that a Google later. Um, I'm gonna move us on to decentralized organizations. I'm keeping an
Yeah.
eye on the time here, which is I'm probably the worst person at doing that because I speak more than I should. So decentralized organizations. Again, something that's, to your point, it's a hot topic at the moment.
Hmm.
The debate rages on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Remote working, flexible working policies. Sorry, return to office mandates, and like every time a big company has a mandate that comes in, it shakes it all up again, and it all goes again. And I think if you're in commercial real estate, I'd wager a guess that probably 90% of your LinkedIn feed is some form of pro against either side, or maybe something between now. Um, but your research is more than just about like, is it the office or is it remote?
Yeah.
So it'd be good if you could explain to us a little bit about how you view decentralization in this future scenario.
Yeah. So actually, it's not what we believe will happen, it's just a scenario. It's what could happen. And this scenario is about a decentralized organization. So it means you have an ecosystem of workers. You look for talents where they are. They can live wherever they want. They are all connected. They are supercharged with AI. So you also have AI agents that are part of the ecosystem. And you just have what we call a liquid workforce. So people spread all across the globe. So that's the scenario.
A liquid workforce. Yeah, I like that. And I guess there are organizations who do exist like that today, right? And I think that's
Yeah,
Asana are one of them actually. We hire people wherever they may be, and they work for where they may
yeah,
be, and whether it's a workspace around the corner, or if it's a podcast studio in a newly opened Brewdog space where I am today. Um, so that's super interesting, and I think thinking about how we supercharge, or that how that would be supercharged. You mentioned
yeah,
AI, and I'm speaking about a question for you on AI and other technologies, but it definitely what we've seen now is companies who are shifting to being more liquid
yeah,
requires a whole host of things. It's almost like a reprogramming of how you think of the company,
yeah,
from how you think about training leaders, how you
yeah,
think about company goals and team
yeah,
goals, project management. All these different things is like how
yeah.
yeah, and I think that interestingly has been a challenge for some companies,
Mm,
because it's the whole host of things that opens up when you go to being more liquid. Is a lot of things you
yeah,
have to think about that you maybe once didn't have to think about when everyone was in the office. It was, well, you're here and you're in the office, so
yeah,
it's done this certain way. But AI is an interesting one, and it's like, again, super hot topic at the moment. Equal parts excitement and word of caution. I personally leverage AI a lot.
yeah,
Don't rely on it wholeheartedly, but I mean, using AI to save myself genuinely hours and hours in the day to do tasks that
yeah,
actually AI can easily do for me. And I think what I'm finding on AI is, something like OpenAI ChatGPT, for example, is
yeah,
uh, the skill is in coaching the outcome, not just asking a question and copying and going.
yeah,
But it's super interesting. But even so, there is this kind of conflicted debate between it's super scary and it's going too far, or
yeah,
you know need to lean into this for the future, because businesses of the
yeah.
future who lean into it properly will continue to outperform others. Do you see AI as a positive force in this shift, or is it something that companies need to be cautious of? Is it a balance of both? How do you view it?
I'm sure it's a balance of both, but I think it's still a very big opportunity. I think it's really a way to empower the people, to supercharge them, as I was telling. I think we shouldn't look at AI as a way to replace people. It's not this way, but it's really a thinking, as you were telling, being more conscious of what you want to achieve as a company. What are the skills of the future? Where do you want to bring your people to train them? What are the key skills they should have tomorrow? So it's really this thinking around skills of the future, which is at the center, and then AI has the power to just use what and automate what is not of value. So for me, it's an opportunity to enable people to be more creative, to develop all the social aspects. Maybe tomorrow we will work less, actually, thanks to AI. So this is
Yeah,
a wonderful opportunity. You ought to become a father. I mean, you will enjoy it. I have 3 kids at home.
yeah. It's like, AI, can you help me have more time to be able to? But it's true, right? I think being able to streamline and be as efficient, or not more efficient with your time,
Yeah,
and get to not even just the same outcomes, but potentially better
yeah,
outcomes
yeah.
than not leveraging is the way forward. But yeah, it's
Or
interesting.
more relevant outcomes, not more outcomes, but maybe more
Yeah,
precise, efficient, more relevant.
100%.
But you need to train your people. So nobody is left behind, because otherwise it will benefit to some people and not to others. So that's the challenge.
You're spot on, and I think in this time where it's still early stages, it's like building company programs around how the whole company leverages AI, and then by specific team, what does this mean? Because different teams will
Yeah.
have different utility, right, for these kind of technologies. So I think being programmatic with the way that you implement AI is, so again,
Yeah.
at least in my opinion, feels like the key to getting it right. And moving into kind of another technology, which is
Yeah.
which I find interesting, VR, right? So
Yeah.
it felt like COVID lockdown, VR had like a really prominent place. There were like conferences that people were creating like avatars and joining by VR and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and that seemed to slightly dwindle a little bit again.
Yeah.
But something that continues to come forth is that the idea that people being around people is a good thing.
Yeah.
Energy, we're social beings, etc., etc. But you also can't deny that there will be some form of decentralization. It's already happening. Um,
Mhm.
and there are technologies that can help bridge gaps between
Yeah.
communications and potentially social now. So do you think there's a role for VR in kind of supporting the decentralized connections, from like a social human?
Yeah. Yeah, I think VR can support, it can help, but the future will be a mix. So I think it's not because you use or you develop VR tools that you will just abandon all face-to-face interactions. I think it will be a mix of both. So because of those decentralized network, maybe we'll find better ways to connect digitally and remotely, but we'll still need of some key moments in the year, in the week, where we all meet and create that social capital. That's how it should be used, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's actually a nice segue into we didn't plan that actually. It's very natural. It's a good segue into our last thing that we're going to be exploring, which is the people imperative, which
Yeah.
we're getting to last, but it's by no means least. It maybe is one of the most important for me, at least, anyway. But without people, there is no office. Oh, there's no world actually, but there's no office and there's no work, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and again, right now there's a huge amounts of kind of research and articles talking about, or kind of debate talking about designing workplace policy and working habits around what people want, and this feeds into the centralization piece as well. Um,
Yeah.
your research talks about, I found really interesting, talks about the societal impact, the importance of societal impact,
Yeah.
sorry, and the power of the citizens' voices.
Yeah.
Would you be able to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, it's the idea that people have a growing aspiration to really contribute more to the fabric of the city, to every decision that are being made. They expect new social standards. They expect more equity, more affordability. These are major societal expectations. And now every people will expect their employer, their city to contribute to those expectations, and to meet them. So this is creating new social standards, and the idea that social impact is becoming a new metric of success. It's not just about financial impact. And this is what this scenario is about. It's really about creating a new KPI in a way. What is creating value today? Is it the finance or is it the people? And I believe this is more and more the people.
Yeah, no, and I think it's interesting because you see in certain instances businesses in the way that they operate, they think in that way, right? So they think
Yeah,
about the impact of the people versus what the balance sheet
yeah,
has. And I think in a world right now, a lot of the world's leading businesses are still fairly long on space. So
yeah,
how when you think about
yeah,
from a real estate perspective, it
yeah,
must be quite a tough position to be in, and this
yeah,
tension between, well, we've got these pre-existing lease commitments that take us out
yeah,
to this period of time, yet we know that we need to maybe make further investment, which might mean less utilization of those,
yeah.
for people, right? Based on what
You
think
know, actually, I think we should just stop looking at offices like fortress. For years, an office has been a fortress. So you would only have the employees of the company going into that fortress. But I think the future is really about the office being open on the city, and you need to see your office as part of a wider ecosystem. So the office needs to contribute to the city's fabric. That's really the approach.
I love that, the fortress. Again, I'm copying seen as a fortress.
I
Yeah,
like images because I think that helps to understand.
no, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. And the workforce demographic plays a role in this,
Yeah,
right? I mean, we had an interesting. There's a year and a half ago now. One of the kind of senior leaders on the Nike real estate team kindly appeared at an event for us, or through the camera, an event for us, and was asked about how they think about their real estate portfolio, and it was a really interesting quote. And it's not, I can't remember the like for like quote, but effectively it was that they think about the teenagers of today when they think about how they're
yeah,
creating a workplace, which I just found fantastic.
yeah.
Um, and there's obviously a continual shift in the workforce demographic. What do you think this means? For the future.
I think it means a lot of opportunity because those young people, they are pushing us, to challenge our thinking. Today, when you see all the debate around hybrid, will it last or not? Will we return to old standards? I think those young people ask us to just reinvent the way we do, the way we look at real estate, the way we use it. So again, they are asking us to invent that new social contract. It's a wonderful opportunity. We shouldn't leave it behind. It's super important. And I think it's good for the entire society because those young people, they actually ask out loud what everybody is expecting. They are
Mm.
just, it's good for the entire society. If tomorrow you have more work-life balance, more flexibility in the way you organize your workload and so on, it will benefit to all of us. So I think we should just seize that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm 100% aligned, and I definitely agree. And I'm excited about this future state. Were there in your research, were there any kind of markets or countries where this was coming sooner than others, and how did that shift and change based on where you were in the world?
Yeah. Actually, if you talk about hybrid, for instance, you see a lot of differences in some market in Asia. You have that relationship to the management, which is super strong, and you're a bit afraid to share your voice. So I think you need to train the people to say you should have a voice in projects. You should have a voice in your company, and that's totally fine for you to tell what you're expecting. So yeah, we've seen a lot of nuances. In Europe, we know it's a bit easier. In France, people are used to complain. So I think there is some culture behind, but which is good. It's good to complain because that helps to elevate the social standards for everybody.
I,
That's my belief.
yeah, I'm sure there were plenty who agree with you, and I myself do as well. Um, well, we are approaching time, but I wanted to get in one of my sneaky bonus questions in before we depart, which was of the 8, not the 80, because that might take you a while
Yeah.
to think about back to. Of the 8, was there a specific, maybe on the subject of children? It's like picking your favorite child, I guess. But was there one of the scenarios that you most enjoyed exploring out of those 8?
Yeah, I mean, as you've said, they are all super connected, but there is one which is about less work and more live and play, which I believe is super promising because it's linked to everything we've discussed around resource scarcity, how we allocate our time. But I believe the future will be really about where do we want to spend our time and how can we do that more efficiently. What is creating value? Is it the work that we deliver? Is it paid job? Or
Mm.
is it maybe the time that you will spend in associations or for local communities? So I think we need to reconsider what is creating value for the society and for the people. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I,
that would be my favorite.
I'm going to pick your brain on that because I've been, I think, like without knowing it, trying to integrate more of that into to my way of being. So kind of working at a space that's close to an activity that I'd like to do, and also been
Yeah.
looking at food as well. I mean, London and Paris, of course, is a hotspot for new food. So it's like, can I work here and try this new thing? And I think, yeah, it's a really interesting. That's, seeing that play out already for myself personally. So, well, I'm going to pick your brain on that. I think more because I'm excited by that future state most certainly. Flore, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Greg.
It was great to speak to you and be able to pick your brain. We've unpacked a small piece of what is a small piece of a huge piece of work. So excited to see what's next. And hopefully we'll be picking your brain again at some point about the next installment. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.